Now, today's video on the surface is going to seem like quite a basic beginner's lesson. We're going to be dealing with cowboy chords, and we're putting those chords together in a very simple 1-4-5 based chord progression in various keys. And if you are a beginner, I think this is one of the most crucial things to learn because it's the core of so much music. It's also a stepping stone to more complex things. But in my experience, many people who've been playing for a while and who consider themselves to be pretty good don't know this stuff as well as they should. I mean, yes, you're going to know these chord shapes, but how well do you know the relationships between these chords, the way they work in different keys? You might half know this stuff, but then when you're put on the spot or in the heat of a kind of live gig situation, you're going to fumble with these kind of things. And this is certainly something that I wish I'd learned about a lot sooner. As it was, I think I've been playing for 4 or 5 years before I really sat down and nailed this stuff. And if this sounds like you, then I think you need to be humble, be honest with yourself, and there's no shame in going back to basics and really getting this stuff down because it's going to make you a better player. So whether you are a beginner, whether you're a more advanced player, I hope there's going to be something in this video for all of you, and let's get started. And this is the chord progression that we're going to be dealing with. As I've already said, it's based on the 1, 4 and 5 chords, and if you don't already think about chord progressions in terms of numbers, this is something that I strongly recommend. It's such a good way to think about chord progressions. It removes a lot of confusion and it provides a very easy way of seeing the relationships between the chords, and you can easily transpose and move the same chord progression through different keys. And just a brief explanation of that for those of you unfamiliar with this system. The 1 chord is basically our home chord for whatever key you're in. The actual name of that chord is going to change depending on what key you're in, but we're going to call it the 1. And then the other chords revolve around that 1 chord. The 1 chord is kind of the center of gravity, if you like, and then the 4 chord is 4 notes higher in the musical alphabet. So you can just count up your musical alphabet, or perhaps you might like to think about it as going up through any given major scale. You count up 4 from your home note, and then the 5 you're just counting up 5. So it's a super simple thing, but that's why I like it and that's why it's so widely used. What we're going to do today, let's start off in the key of G, and then we're going to try and play through our chord progression just using some very simple open position cowboy chords. So the key of G, fairly obviously the G chord is going to be our 1 chord. Then we can count up 4 letters in the alphabet or up through the G major scale if you like, and G is the 1, so G, A, B, C is going to give us the root note of our 4 chord. All of these chords are going to be major chords. The 1, 4, 5 are all major in a major key. So our 4 chord, we've got our root note C. Now we're going to plug in a C major chord, and then the 5 chord is just going to be 1 higher, so you can just think from C up to D, or you can count through all 5 notes if you prefer. So G, A, B, C, D, that is going to be our 5 chord. So we've got 1, 4 and 5 in the key of G. So I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, know those chord shapes, but the main thing here is the relationship between these chord shapes. That's what I'm going to be focusing on. So the first thing we're going to do is just to strum through our chord progression using these very simple chord shapes, and I'm going to be keeping my strumming very simple just to begin with. I'm going to get into some more interesting, more advanced things later in this video, but for now let's just strum 4 times, 4 down strums in each bar, and our chord progression would sound like this: 2, 3, 4. So yeah, this is very simple stuff, but I want you to focus on the details of this and really have this stuff internalized. So a few things to be aware of here then. Let's just look at the relationships between these chords. We've got our one chord, and in a sense this is kind of a pattern thing on the fretboard and a muscle memory thing. So we're going to the 4 chord here. Notice the relationship between the root notes of the 1 and the 4. We've got the root of the 1 chord at the 3rd fret on the 6th string. The root of the 4 chord is the 3rd fret on the 5th string. So you very often got that relationship between the 1 and the 4. They're on the same fret but on different strings. So you can kind of see how the root note changes when you're going from the 1 to the 4. Then you go to the 5 chord, and yes, you can find the root of the 5 chord up 2 frets from the 4 chord, but here, because we're sticking with cowboy chords, we're playing the 5 chord like this. The root note is actually the open 4th string. So here the relationship between the 1 and the 5 is perhaps a little bit harder to visualize. We've actually got a string skip, and then we've got an open string to find the root of the 5 chord. So those are some visual things on the fretboard to be aware of, and really you just want to get this stuff in your muscle memory. So you can just seamlessly change between the 1, 4 and the 5, and you can really hear that stuff as well. If I'm in the key of G, I know that I've got my 4 chord here, I know that I've got my 5 chord here, and it's almost as if it's kind of one chord group. All 3 of these chords, they're all going to go together in many songs. They all sound really good together, so I'm kind of practicing those as a bunch of 3 chords. And a further important thing, perhaps the most important thing, is being able to hear this stuff as well. So if you can hear where the home chord is, and then hear how the 4 and 5 chords sound in relation to that home chord. One exercise might be just to sing the root note of the 1, 4 and 5. So we've got the 1, and then we're going to the 4, and then 5, back to 1. So really have that in your head. This is not about being a good singer. It's just la 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 la. You might like to say 1, 4, 1, 5, just as an ear training exercise, just singing those root notes in various different orders. So 1, 4, 5, 4, 1, 1, 5, 4, 1, 4, 5, 1, just till you really internalize that, and then you can kind of maybe sing it at the same time as you play, and then you've got that connection between your brain and your fingers. So yeah, this is very simple, but already I hope you're starting to see that if you really want to deeply understand this stuff, there's more going on than you might at first think. So we've got the chord shapes to start with, we've got that muscle memory thing linking those chords together, there are the visual relationships on the fretboard, there's the ear training thing, and there's just the theory thing of knowing the names of these chords as well. It's something you could practice away from the guitar. Just in the key of G, just knowing that D is the 5, C is the 4, just right away, knowing the answer to that. What is the 5 chord in the key of G? It's D. It's just one of those things you can work on and memorize. Let's change key. We're going to move to the key of A, and we're going to be working with the same chord progression. So all of that numbers stuff is going to remain exactly the same. The actual names of the chords we're using is now going to change. A is going to be a 1 chord, D is the 4 chord, and E is the 5 chord. So it's got this kind of visual thing going on the fretboard once again. So if you look at the root notes, the 1 is the 5th string, and then the 4 is the open 4th string. So it's the same as the relationship between the 1 and the 4 in the key of G. It's on the same fret. Here we're using open strings, but that relationship is the same. So 1 and 4, and then for the 5 chord we're kind of moving down to the 5 chord. So the root note is going down to the open 6th string. That's another little relationship to be aware of. The root of the 5 chord is found below the root of the 1 chord at the same fret, or here we're just using open strings. So we've got the 1, and then we've got the 5. So let me play through our chord progression using these chords then. Let's spice things up just a little bit in our strumming hand, and I'll introduce some up strums as well. Maybe we'll go for this this kind of down, down, up, up, down kind of a strum. But here's the chord progression. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the same things apply here. You just want to have those 3 chords in your muscle memory. So whenever you're in the key of A, you automatically know where the 4 is and where the 5 is. And really the ear training stuff stays exactly the same. Once you've tuned into that root note, you've got 1, 4, 5. I mean, perhaps one thing to be aware of is you can always go down to the 4 and the 5 as well. So you want to be able to hear that too. So here we're going down to the 5 chords, so you've got that da 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 da. So make sure you can hear going down to the 5 da da, as well as going up to the 5 da da. So both of those things are important ear training things to work on. Let's change key again and go for the key of D. D is now going to be our 1 chord, and G is the 4 chord, and A is going to be the 5 chord. I mean, notice how we're dealing with the same bunch of cowboy chords, but they can have different jobs, different functions. So we've got this D chord, it's functioning as the 1 chord in the key of D, but we've already seen it acting as the 5 chord in the key of G, or it could be the 4 chord in the key of A. So any one of these chords can be different things in terms of the job it's doing, the function it's doing in a chord progression. So root movement there, we've got the 5 down below the root of the 1 chord. Once again here, this is a little bit of a harder visual thing to see. We've got the 1 and then we've got the 4 root down here, so that's just something you kind of have to memorize and be aware of. We've got the 1-4 relationship like that in the key of D. But once you've got that, we can plug in our chord progression, and let's mix things up once again with our strumming. Maybe do a little bit of a country strum kind of a thing with this one. So I'm going to pick something like that. So I'm playing the root note, strumming, and then another note from the chord, usually the 5th of the chord, and alternating between those. So pick, strum, and if I take that round the chord progression, it would sound like this. Moving to the key of E, and E is now going to be the 1 chord, A is the 4 chord, and B is going to be the 5 chord. I'm actually going to play a B7 chord here. You could play a B major chord, but you'd have to play a bar chord grip for that, but I'm going to stick with the Cowboy approved B7 chord. And really with any of these chord progressions, the 5 chord could be made turned into a dominant 7th chord. That's always going to sound good. You could turn all 3 of the chords, the 1, 4 and the 5, into 7th chords for more of a bluesy kind of sound. You can make them all minor if you want more of a minor key sound, or a minor blues, for example. So once you've got the basics down, you can experiment and throw in some different varieties of chords if you like. But in the key of E major, we've got 1 and 4 like this. So we've got that relationship where the root of the 1 and then the 4 is immediately across from that on the next open string. The 5 here is quite clearly 2 frets above the 4, so just counting up from the 4 chord, that's the root of our 5, and you've got that diagonal relationship between the root of the 1 and the 5 as well. So that's all important visual stuff to be aware of. Then there's just getting that under your fingers, 1, 4, 5. So it's automatic. But let me play through the chord progression. Once again, let's mix things up a little bit with strumming, and I think I'll stick with that kind of country strum flavour, but maybe I'll throw in some connections between the chords. This is a nice skill to work on when you're playing your 1, 4 and 5s, and you can just throw in some little single note connections between the chords. And the easiest way to think about this is just climbing up through the key, through the major scale, to connect the roots of our 1, 4 and the 5. I think when I go to the B7, I might do a little chromatic run up from the root of the 4 to hit the root of the 5. So let me play the chord progression, and you'll be able to hear what this sounds like. And finally, let's move to the key of C. So C is going to be our 1 chord. F is going to be our 4 chord. So here you're going to have to either use a bar chord grip like that. Often with F I will play it like this. So I'm not playing the 6th string, maybe just muting that with my thumb, and then I've got 3, 3, 2, 1 and 1. That's kind of a nice grip for the F chord, and it's a smooth change between the C and the F if you use that particular grip. So that's our 4, and then our 5 is going to be a G. So 1, 4, 5, back to 1. If you look at the relationship between those root notes, it's really clear in this key. So that's the 1, the 4 is on the next string at the same fret, and then the 5 is down below the root at the same fret. So 1. If you're playing the F like this, you've actually got this note in common between the C and the F chord. This is the 5th of the F chord, but the actual root of the chord here is this note on the 4th string, and then the 5 and back to the 1. So I'm going to play through our chord progression, and you can really take any approach you want with your strumming hand, your picking hand. So maybe I'll dispense with the pick altogether this time, and I'll just play through our chord progression fingerstyle, and that would sound like this. So that's something to try if you are a fingerstyle player, and that would work in any of these keys. I mean, the fingerstyle pattern that I was using here, I'll try and put this up on screen, but I've got the alternating thumb, and then I've got this kind of pinch on beat 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then in the second bar I'm introducing a higher note. Exactly the same pattern for the F, and then for the G it's very similar. I've got my thumb now moving from the 6th string over to the 4th string for the bass part. So there we have it, 1 chord progression, 5 different keys, and as I hope I've shown in this video, this stuff is deceptively simple, so it's really worth spending some time making sure you know this thoroughly. So memorize the theory, get those chord changes under your fingers in the muscle memory, train your ear so you can recognize these chord changes as well. And if you do that, it's really going to pay off. It will really make you a better musician. That's it for today's video. I hope you found it helpful, and let me know if you'd like to see more of this kind of thing, these kind of beginner friendly essentials type lessons. And you know, as a content creator, you know, I'm always trying to do a wide range of stuff, whether it's looking at different genres or things at different levels. But if you would like more kind of beginner friendly stuff looking at guitar essentials, then let me know and I can do that. If you're not already signed up to my Patreon page, you might like to do that. You can get tab for all of the examples in this video and get access to my whole archive of older tabs. Thanks very much for watching. See you next time.